Welcome to Bias Badge. I'm Lauren Green. The president's decision to send an additional 450 troops to Iraq could signal the beginning of a subtle but important new strategy in the fight against ISIS. The White House is said to be considering so-called mini bases known as some lily pads throughout the country. But will this strategy be effective enough? Here with her reaction is Fox News contributor Judy Miller. Hey, Judy.
Hey, Lauren.
Okay, so President Obama resisted pulling troops back into the theater of war, especially ground forces. So does this show, as the New York Times was writing, an incremental step back into a sectarian conflict? I mean, is this part of it?
Well, I think this is a belated response of too little too late, ignoring what he had called the JV team, and now having the JV team take over one half of Syria and one-third of Iraq, and realizing that they are marching en route to Baghdad, which would be a huge political and psychological blow to this president. So he has had to respond. He's had to respond to all the military analysts who are up in arms, people saying we're not doing enough. My question is this an appropriate and likely to be an effective response to the problem? And my concern, as having spent so much time in Anbar province embedded with our troops, is that I remember when I was there, we had what the lily pads were then called, forward operating bases. And these FOBs were very well protected by a lot of American soldiers. Now we're putting out people in very dangerous areas with almost no security and support. My concern is for the, quote, advisors who are going to be sent out there. Are we going to be able to provide them sufficient protection?
You were in that area, yes. During 2003, 2011?
And 2010. I was there as we were pulling out. The week before I left the governor's compound of Ramadi, which is now in ISIS's hands. The black flag flies over it. There was a suicide bombing that nearly took out a third of the facility. That's when we were, quote, winning. But even so, the situation politically and semi-militarily was stabilized when we left. But every soldier that I talked to during that embed in August of 2010 said, I don't know what's going to happen when we pull out of here. I'm really worried about our abandoning these people.
And you talk about, let's do the math here, because when you were there, 158,000 U.S. troops were there in that area. Right now, there are about, with the addition, there will be about 3,500, I believe. How can they do this? And is the media being hard enough on the Obama administration to actually push for some kind of strategy? They should, like months ago.
I think the media have begun to ask the critical questions about what our strategy is, what the goal of it is, what the end goal of it is. But obviously, I'm very concerned about this strategy. The problem that the president has, and here I have a fair amount of sympathy for him, is that it's really a military problem, which is ISIS's military gains, but much more importantly, it is a political problem with the government of Iraq. And that is Prime Minister Hadi, whom he has spoken to a number of times about this, has not taken the steps he needs to include the Sunni Iraqis in the governance of Iraq. And they don't trust him. They don't want the Shiite militias saving them from ISIS. They are not part of the solution. They are now part of the problem. And what the president has argued privately, and I think even now publicly, is that the Iraqis are not doing enough to keep their country together and to be inclusive. How does this lily pad strategy address that fundamental question? That's what I want to know. I don't hear an answer to that from the White House people
hopefully more media will begin asking that question.
I hope so.
I hope so.
Or I'll be out there again embedded with our advisors this time.
Thanks so much, Judy.
Thank you, Lauren.
And if you want to hear more media analysis on this topic, catch Media Buzz with Howard Kurtz Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern and again at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Fox News Channel. I'm Lauren Green, and thanks for watching.